Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. I have a whole team with me today. They're all in back of me. It's not everybody in back of me, but a lot of folks in back of me. But we'll go into it. Here I have Jason Waters alongside me to help guide a lot of the discussion and make sure that I don't go off course on anything. And then Mario's over there too, keeping a watchful gaze on us. So today's discussion, just a quick overview on the fiscal setting that we've already talked about in the prior council meeting, general fund overview, and then why. That's the big focus today, to get kind of a bird's eye look on why a proposed revenue measure could be helpful to the city. Council has seen a lot over the last years of why, but this will be kind of a review of it by department on what needs are, what some desires are, and what they could bring to the city with additional financial resources. Because we are, as we've covered before, we are at a balanced general fund budget. There's no budgeted surplus currently. And then at the end, we'll have council input and direction. If council has some input during, that's okay. We just do have a lot to cover in this short kind of time frame. We won't be covering over like many details. It'll be more broad strokes on a lot of the department stuff. And then part of that next step will be focused on if council desires to establish a proposed revenue measure advisory committee. That will be kind of the big final outcomes at the end of this meeting. So just a quick overview, as I said, on the fiscal setting. There's many demands on the general fund, enterprise funds, water, sewer, refuse. Those are taken care of with rates to the customers. We're focused on the general fund. There's a lot of demands, competing demands: police, fire, streets, parks, general government, debt, capital needs, a lot of deferred needs, 60+ million in just our CIP alone. That's been adopted by council. So millions out there. Balanced budget, as I mentioned, we don't have a surplus built into our budget, but we are balanced. Every cent is appropriated for an expenditure. The general fund reserve has been diminished due to the settlement earlier this year. At last audit, we were about 6%. We're hoping for an increase with this next audit. We're waiting on some final numbers there. But City Council has established a goal of 35%. So we're a far cry from where we almost were. But we're looking to build back up, but that'll take time. And there's many deferred needs. So you can look at the CIP that's been adopted and see that there's millions and millions out there across all departments that's needed. And then just a quick look on the general fund. The city of Hanford has just under a $44 million general fund budget for this current fiscal year. Police has a small sliver there. Fire a little bit larger. Oops, I got that mixed up. And then parks, community services, engineering and streets, community development, and admin has that little piece down there. Or the general fund, non-departmental, has that little teeny sliver down there. But as you can see, every cent is allocated out. So there's no built-in surplus or piggy bank necessarily built into the budget. So now comes the fun part where our team will be coming up and presenting an overview by department. And first up, we have the police department. So Chief and Captain, if you folks can come up and start giving a little bit of a review.
Good evening, council members. I'm going to defer to Captain Anderson, but this is our projection to get us to 95 officers by 2033, which actually will put us at about 1.5 officers per thousand, which is actually still a little bit below the state average, but at least will allow us to be a more proactive as opposed to a reactive police department. Captain Anderson.
Good evening. Hopefully this is on and everybody can hear me. So first I just want to say thank you to Mario and Chris and everybody else. This has been a great project to work on with everybody. It's we've had a lot of support, and you guys have a great team here in the city, and I'm proud to be a part of it. So looking at our needs, the bulk of what we were looking at right now really surrounds staffing and what we're able to accomplish with our staff. Like Chief was saying, the average for the state of California is 1.6 officers per 1,000 citizens. That should put us right around 95, 96 officers. Our goal is to get to 95, which would put us average with the state average. I come from an educational home with my wife, and so we would be looking to get to a grade of a C. So keep that in mind when, like, our goal is to get to average, and that's a leap for us, and it will be a huge benefit and service to our community, because right now we're really behind. Right now we currently have 65 sworn positions at the police department. 4 of those are vacant, and 5 are on long-term disability or injury. So essentially we're 9 officers down just in a normal world right now trying to catch up. So we're at about 0.9, 0.8 officers per 1,000, and every day there's someone working overtime in the city for the public's safety to meet our minimum standards. And that creates a whole nother host of problems when we start looking at officer wellness, use of equipment, because those same officers that are continuing to work are driving the same cars. So now we have cars that are going and having higher mileage and more use and going back to the shop. So it kind of creates a waterfall of issues for us. And then just trying to maintain the presence on patrol and not inside of our police station, because the problem is we generate a lot of calls for service. The city right now, we're a little bit over 60,000 calls for service per year. And with being 9 officers down, and realistically, that 9 is actually 39, because we need another 9 officers or 30 officers to be average. So we're almost 40 officers behind what an average city should be, should have on patrol and working and serving our citizens. So what that does is, like if you have a property crime, we don't have a detective to work on property crimes because we don't have the staffing. So that's a case that's going to be assigned to a patrol officer who can work it when he can, because we really don't have the resources. So a lot of this is really going to always come back to our staffing and what we need to do to develop. So looking at response times, right now our average response times to calls is a little over 15 minutes. The state average is less than 5. So that's disappointing for me, because there's a lot of times when someone needs an officer and we can't get them there because our minimum staffing during the day is 4, and in the evening and into the late evening it is 5. And just keep in mind, we're having to force officers to come in and work so we can stay at minimum staffing. So that's a stress on our officers, it's a stress on everything, and it creates poor service for our community, which isn't good. And then just looking at statistics of the service we can provide, every time you go past 5 minutes of a response to a law enforcement call, your likelihood of having an arrest made or solving that goes down significantly. If you can respond in 5 minutes or less, data shows that we have a 60% clearance rate on calls. After we hit 5 minutes and every minute after that, after about 7 minutes, it goes down to about a 20% chance of solving that crime or making an arrest in that case, which is significant. And honestly, we can do better. And then the overtime that our officers are working. So right now, I ran the numbers this morning. Our overtime budget is at 90%, and we're 4 months into our budget year. We will be approximately $340,000 if we continue on this with the current staffing. Will be $340,000 over budget in our overtime for patrol. And it breaks my heart because those are officers that aren't at home. Those are officers that are working extra hours, that are working late, and they're worn out. I can tell you right now, you see the look on their face, and this is hard on them. And it's hard on us to watch them, and we're literally like jugglers throwing all these names in the air going, well, oh, Carl can work, let's call him. Oh, geez, he's out of town. Okay, Jack can work. Oh, nope, he's sick.
No.
I was just using your name because I saw you. I'm not going to make you. There'll be a lot of complaints coming in. So obviously that, forcing officers to work that much overtime leads to burnout. We can do better. We need to do better. We need to be able to have the ability to hire more officers. We care about them. We care about their families, and we want them to be healthy and happy and come to work and do a great job and leave being happy and healthy and wanting to serve their community. And then I'm going to jump around a little bit right now, too, and pop over here to facilities. We have 3 facilities right behind us, and they total just under 17,000 square feet. We've remodeled them and reconfigured them. We just recently did a complete rear lot reorganization, so we, for the first time, have a secure parking lot, which is amazing. To be able to park your cars behind a gate and know that no one's going to mess with them or vandalize them. And thank you guys for doing that for us, because it's nice. But the average for the state is approximately 350 square feet per officer. That puts us at right around 23,000 square feet of space that we would need. That does not include a dispatch center. That is just for patrol and investigations and officer staff space. A dispatch center that's approximately that's 500 square feet per dispatcher, and we'd look at about 6,500 square feet for a dispatch center. So if we were able to get to average for officer staffing, we would need about 34,000 square feet of building space, and we have nowhere near that. You start looking at just like staff conveniences. We have 40 lockers for our male employees. We have 54 currently male employees. We have 27 females, and we have 4 lockers for our female staff members. So needless to say, those are a hot commodity, and they essentially get assigned by seniority, and it is what it is because we don't have the room to support our staff that are actually in the building. And it's, they have to figure out how to work out of their cars or do other things to make it work. But once again, that's another area where I know we can do better, and we need to. And looking at the needs for our facility, I don't know what the solution is, but I know we need a new police department, and I know currently like a training facility, we don't have anything like that. I know the fire department most likely could benefit from something like that. I'm not sure. But having a joint police and fire training facility locally for us would be huge. But I honestly am looking to get to average. If we could be an average police department in the state of California, gosh, it's a dream come true. Looking at reducing overtime. It's out of control, and wanting to do that is also looking at improving the safety of our officers, because once again, if we can make them happy and healthy, they're going to be better, more efficient, they're going to be proactive, they're going to work harder, they're going to work better, and we're kind of missing the boat right there. And then overall, just improving the safety of the city. Right now, the last 2 years, we have had more deaths in traffic accidents than we had in homicides or violent crime. So I'm just trying to convey, if you're a gang member, been a gang member your entire life, break the law, and carry a gun, and just don't care about the well-being of others, you're less likely to die by one of your rival gang members than any one of you going to the supermarket or going down to Save Mart, the pharmacy, going to wherever you want to go. And that breaks my heart that we don't have enough officers out working patrol, doing enforcement, slowing cars down, and getting people off the road that shouldn't be on the road and addressing those issues now. So once again, this is going to come down to increasing our officer staffing, getting up to a standard level. So we're going for a solid C, getting officers to be proactive instead of right now we're reactive. We're in the department. We're taking reports. We go out. We answer a call. We go back. We've got to document it. We can provide much better customer service if we had better staffing. And I know we can do a better job. And I'm excited at the opportunity to work with Chris and everybody else on developing this plan.
Thank you, Captain
guys.
Anderson, and
I'm long-winded, so I apologize for taking.
Sorry, I'm having
Fire's
to
time.
bring in fire now, but Chief has a final.
Just a brief comment. On Thanksgiving, we had 3 officers that were scheduled to be off that night that left their families and came to work. Obviously, we've all done that. No one knows better than Iris about missing holidays with family. The overtime budget, while we're trying to manage it, is a difficult situation because of the fatigue factor, huge. We've got a lot of officers that are working a lot of overtime. It's inefficient, but it is the way it is. Chief Navarez approached us regarding the training center. He'll speak more to that here in a second. I think it's an exceptional idea that Captain Anderson touched on, that he'll speak more about, that we're very supportive of. But if the population continues to grow, as it is, 0.84% per year is the average, we may not make the 70,000 mark, but in discussions with some of the council members, we very well could be at 75,000 by 2033 if the Bay Area housing, which would mean we need like 105 officers, not just the 95. So it is critical, our staffing, if we are to be a proactive law enforcement agency that is going to address crime.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Navarez.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Fire Department, let me go over what the needs and why. I want to break it down item by item if you want to. We'll start with the time standards. Our time standards are becoming very challenging as the city grows to the north part of the city. The goal of the Hanford Fire Department is for the apparatus, our first engine, to arrive within 4 minutes. 90% of the time, that would be the industry standard. Currently, we're averaging about 65% of the time. Why? Because our stations are responding to a large response area. So if we added additional fire stations, it would be responding to a smaller response area, which would help our response time. As the city grows north and west, our response times are becoming more difficult. So the plan is to build a fire station 4 at Centennial Drive and Berkshire, which we've already purchased the land. The same will be true as the city develops east towards Costco. That station's also, we have the land already, and that's at 9 1/4 Avenue and Florinda. The next item on there is the staffing, the ratio. The 1 to 1,000 firefighter per 1,000 population ratio. Currently, we're only meeting 0.52, so half of the firefighters. Our current population is around 60,000, so that would equal 60 firefighters. And how we would break that down, if we were meeting the industry standard, would be 60 firefighters per 3 shifts, so that would be 20 per shift. You would have 20 on duty. That's for five stations. So we would do 4 stations would be staffed with 4, and our 5th station would have staff with 3 plus our BC would make it our fourth person. Next item on there is maintaining and improving 911 emergency and first response times. Once again, as the city continues to grow, our call volume increases, our traffic increases, vehicle and train increases, so that's delaying our time. Currently, we're relying a lot on Kings County Fire Department to assist us with automatic aid. But one thing that we need to plan on is Kings County is going to be moving their Station 4, the one on Houston, due to the high-speed rail project. They're going to be moving closer to Corcoran, which is going to be farther to us here in Hanford. They're also going to move their truck company. It's moving closer to the Palace, along with Station 7. So we need to plan on these changes, and I think currently we're receiving automatic aid from Station 4 and 5 from Kings County. So if we were to build Station 4 and 5, we would eliminate depending on Kings County to respond to structure fires. Again, that's, they might be committed to their own incident. Next slide. Our personnel needs, with the current staffing we have now, we would, if we kept the current staffing, we'd add in 1 new station. That would be 9 positions. That's for 3 shifts. The captain, 3 captains, 3 engineers, and 3 firefighters. 2 new stations. That's a total of 18 new firefighters. And then again, other needed positions would include a administrative battalion chief. That's a 40-hour position, which would be over training, investigations, other administrative duties, and also will respond to fires as a safety officer. That would meet our industry standards. Also, we would include 2 inspectors as the city grows. When we build 1 station, we would include 1 inspector. Second station, that would be another inspector. City grows, we need to be out there doing public safety inspections. We've updated our fees, which that would also bring revenue into the city. So salary costs $3.5 million annually for all the above positions. The 2 new fire stations, the construction of 2 new fire stations, a cost of $18 million each. How did we come up with that? Doing some research, Clovis built a new station in 2022 at a cost of $880 per square foot. The building came out close to $8 million, not including the purchase of the land. That was in 2022. Today's cost, Visalia and Tulare County Fire Department, they're looking at building new stations. The cost now is $1,500 per square foot. So 10,000 square foot building is about $15 million. Our estimate is when the city is ready to build in a couple of years, the cost will be approximately 1,800 square feet. 1,800 square foot for a 10,000 square foot building. That's where we came up with the 18 million. And then again, a new fire apparatus, a fire engine now currently is costing about 1.25 million. That's completely loaded with tools, equipment, hoses. and the ladder truck, $2 million. That's what we're looking at, the current cost. And it takes about 36 months to build one of those. One other item that was brought up right now that's not on the PowerPoint was the training facility. I approached Jack and talked to Jack. That's one thing that Hanford has never had is a training facility. It's a high demand for not just fire department, for police department, and for College of Sequoias. They brought their campus over here. They brought the police academy, the fire academy. So I think it would be a win-win for all of us if we were to look at it and work collaborate as a group on that. That's my time.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you wrapping that up right when I was going to do the circle of my finger. So next up, our new Public Works Director. Congratulations, Russ Sterling.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. We talked about this earlier this year about some of the needs in streets. Right now, the city's single highest value asset is our streets. We have about $100 million, well over $100 million invested. The valuation right now is about $70 million. Our goal is to improve the safety of the residents, circulation for the residents, and improve public safety's ability to respond. Back in May, I presented to you some information on our streets. We had a PCI back then of 57, which was down 1 point from December 31st to 2022. I ran another report, and we've actually dropped 2 more points since May, as of November. So we've dropped basically 3 points in less than a year. Labor and material costs, we've seen a big increase in labor and material. I've already been notified by the plants that there's a 2% increase effective January 1st and a 2.25% increase. So just the cost of asphalt is going up 5.25% a ton for everything. Currently we have about $82 million, and that's going to in deferred costs. That's going to continue to increase if we're not maintaining our roads. The current budget for street maintenance and CIP projects, it's insufficient to maintain the current PCI we have now. We're going to continue to decline. Part of that problem is last year we did a minimal seal coating project because we had to defer some of those funds to other projects. And again, this year we have some projects that we're going to have to defer that money to. So our seal coating projects will be minimal again this year, and that's going to directly affect our PCI. An increase to $9 million a year would increase our current PCI to the high 60s. And you can see here, maintaining a PCI, $6.7 million for 10 years. We would hold steady, $7.5 million per year through fiscal year 28 and 29. That would get us, we could maintain at 65. This is actually a little outdated, so it would probably be more than that just to get to 65 because we've fallen 2 points already. We would need a minimum of an additional $4 million annually just to maintain what we have. We would need increased funding for sidewalks, ADA improvements, utilities, lighting, signage. Potential impacts would, again, be sidewalk, street safety, lighting.
Brad, welcome.
Thank you. The overall goals of Parks and Community Services really is to enhance the community's quality of life and to meet the recreational desires and demands. And much like the other departments, the data tells the story. A lot of different tiles here, but really when you look at the top right, acres of parkland per 1,000, Hanford is at 3.4, and the national average per the National Recreation Association is 10.8. So we're less than a third of the actual green space, usable green space, parks and open space. And then you see just some of the other tiles up there is, the one we look the best is residents per playground. We have fewer than the national average, so I guess there's more room on our playgrounds for our kids. So that's good, but as you can see, we're well behind the national averages. For us, in 2020, council adopted the Parks and Rec Master Plan. And these numbers come from the chapter, which is the 10-year CIP section. And it's broken down by sustainable, expanded, and visionary. I'll give you just a really quick. So sustainable is taking care of what we have. Things get older. Many of our parks are getting older. This includes our sports complexes, which I know will be a topic later this evening. And there's work to be done there. And these are safety issues. They are aesthetic issues and health issues. And so this is repairing that. Expanded services. So this is adding amenities to our existing parks, whether that's a basketball court, whether that's a playground, a new type of activity. A good example of this is the fitness court we added to Hidden Valley Park a few years ago that added an amenity that we didn't have there. And then the last one with the big number value there is visionary projects. And basically that's for new parks, a potential indoor multi-generational center that could be used by all segments of the community. And someday a new aquatics facility. The plunge is very old and is tired. And there'll be a time when that will become unusable. So this is it for our department. And like everyone else, a great deal of need.
Thank you, Brad. So, Council, that is a quick, broad overview from all the departments. Well, almost all the departments. Jason and I sit here, and our needs were just so much we couldn't even fit it on a slide. I'm just kidding. Our needs are sustained within what we have right now, and we're here to support other departments right now. Ours aren't as cool as theirs. But in regards to general city needs, this is what I support because I support everybody. But there's additional general needs that the city has, addressing homelessness, improving communication to the public, and maintaining, improving city facilities. Maintenance is just a huge need that continues to be deferred. Promote economic development. There's opportunities there. And address emergent capital needs, for example, like the public safety building or other facilities that may arise as needs. So a typical draft spending plan, when you look at other agencies, other cities that have passed revenue measures, you could be looking at something like 5% a year going towards reserve, building up for that. For emergency needs and sustainability, as the measure continues, it would be able to sustain all activities in a fiscal emergencies. Building maintenance could have a sliver. Parks and Recreation could have a portion there, and then public safety and roads typically will have a significant portion of the funding. And as discussed on the very bottom there, just many communities in the area have similar needs, and their local measures usually are something like that. Here is kind of a semi-detailed outline of what a schedule for development of a proposed revenue measure could look like. There's a lot here, but we're in the very beginning. And what staff's recommendation at this point would be is to consider developing a community group for more community involvement, direct community involvement, and potentially this advisory committee could work with staff. We would go into more details with them, give them the broad look, but in addition, give them the details. And that committee would work to formulate a recommendation to City Council, and staff would come back with that recommendation alongside the committee. But the process takes time, so The proposed revenue measure language, if council should choose to present that to the voters, would be due in early August. So we are sitting here in December, but time will evaporate quickly. Here's just a kind of a quicker look at it, but we're in step one now. And that would continue through about March of 2024. And then March and April, we start drafting some more details of what that proposed revenue measure could look like. What would it be? What would it be covering? Kind of the list of things. And then start surveying. What does the community want? Have professional polling done. And start preparing for that to go to ballot. All that is contingent on council approving that going to the voters. So there's still many steps to go and lots of opportunities for community involvement at this time and for further council input as well. So just a quick look, if a revenue measure passes in November 2024, we would be looking at potentially getting new revenues coming in April of 2025. We'd have to work out agreement with the CDTFA, which is a department in the state, and then that revenue would come directly to the city. If a revenue measure is not pursued or is not passed by the voters, then staff and city council will continue to have to live within our means. Council's aware of the challenges that were presented in the budget process, so that would continue. But that would be the voters' decision. Really, there wouldn't be any significant change right away, but the challenges would just continue on in future years, is the way I would see it. So at this point, looking for council direction, input, but what staff would like to walk away with is direction on what potential, should council choose, what a potential proposed revenue measure advisory committee could look like. Should council want to form that type of committee, or council could choose not to.
All right, so when we're talking about an advisory committee, it's just going through the process, or after, if we pass the ballot, it becomes some sort of oversight committee?
That would be determined should it pass. Council could decide whether to evolve that committee into an oversight committee or not. It would be up to council at that time. But it would be a good basis for that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could chime in real quick. So, as we've kind of discussed at some of these previous meetings, this is a tax measure that our citizens are going to have to pass this should council give us direction to move it forward. The first step is a steering committee. That steering committee should be the one that decides, is there an oversight committee? That steering committee, when they start to delve into very deep into all of the budgets that were presented tonight at a high level, will tell you, we believe in talking to our friends and talking to our family and others in the community that the public would support these three elements. They're not going to support these two. If we're going to move forward with this is something where council will need to listen to that steering committee. And so we believe that's the first step. Again, for the discussion at the council level is, what would you like that to look like? What's the size? We can bring back, it appears now that we have an impact fee report that has to come on the next council meeting, so we will have the second meeting in December. Likely those are smaller. We can just do study session and consent calendar. We're not going to bring any big items. But at that study session, we could bring back kind of some ideas of what it may look like, how, generally you'll see in committees like that, there's a certain number that are appointed by council members. The rest could be through an application process at large that the clerk could manage, like the commissions. But those are just a variety of things that to throw out there that council could consider.
Or if council has a direction now, we could take that now and start that formation. We'll need to work with the city clerk and get that out there, advertised, or get the candidates in, and then the goal would be to present it back to council in January.
I'd like to propose that we go for a broad committee. I want to thank the staff for, this is exactly what we asked for. Tell us what the stark reality is. So thank you for that information. And one of the things that helps measures like this, should we choose to go that direction, is having opinion leaders from all over town and all precincts that people look up to, and try to approach them about getting engaged in this process. And so I'd recommend that we shoot for a large group, like maybe 30, and then if that's too cumbersome for certain things, they can elect officers and they can kind of be an executive. Then if we need a smaller group, we can have, 4 people that make up the executive committee or something like that. So I'll toss that out there.
I just want to, I completely support that. And I'm, as you were saying, a broad group throughout the community. So if we do 30 and there's 5 of us, that we have 6 individuals from each of our districts to have like a good representation, that would help out.
Large,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some at large, but I think
Yeah.
definitely,
What if like 3 per area,
3 or 4, and then
and then the rest at
Yeah.
large?
Yeah, I mean, first off, to the staff, thank you for the presentations. I mean, I think this is something that we've asked for, and it's so critical that we in the community see exactly where we're at. As we went through the budget process, yes, we have a balanced budget. Yes, we're holding our own. There's no doubt. But in the reality of it, moving forward, and what we want for our city, and what the community wants for their city is what's important. And we know the needs. I mean, I just think of my, public safety brothers and sisters that are out there that are doing the job every day. And when you start talking about 60,000 calls for service for the police department at 500 a day, and when you take that and divide that out, you're talking 6 per hour. They've got 2 or 3 officers out there working. I mean, when you look at the pressure and that we're putting on them, and then when we start talking about national averages and response times and standards, for the fire department and what it takes, and I'm going to tell you, I everybody I've talked to in the community, and I know for myself, we don't know when the time is going to come, or if it's going to come, but it's when, and when it does, what do we all want? We want them there. We need them there, and. I think when we go, I love Diane's idea. I'm sorry, I'm belaboring a little bit, but I love your idea. The committee is important. Getting those key community members involved in this and having a say. And, I like the idea of 3 or 4 per district, and then having 10 or 15 at large, get those main community leaders that, have that broad sense of, get everything involved from parks and recs to, and let's see what the community's wants are, and what are they willing to agree to. I think that's critical.
I know that we've been compared to neighboring cities, and look at this city, look at what they're doing, but you look at those cities and they're at 8.5% or 8.975% as we see up there, and Hanford and Lemoore are one of 30 cities in the entire state that it has a 7.25% sales tax. And, all of these measures have been voted upon by the citizens. And I think by the council just putting this tax measure forward and allowing Hanford to decide on the type of Hanford wants to see, I think it's very important. And, public safety, our parks, our roads, we need to have some, our general needs, we need some help. We need some help.
Kind of going off the kind of divvying it up amongst everybody. As far as the at-large idea, could we possibly make it where we have different groups, like ones that represent public safety and that ones that would represent business, that sort of thing?
Oh, I see that. That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Is one of the concerns I would have is if we almost had like a 50-50 split where we've got evenly divided amongst everybody, but then we just take a majority, an at-large position. We tend to have a lot of people from the more affluent areas show up, just to be frank, to our meetings. So I just want to make sure that it's very well distributed around the city and looking at those different aspects. Right.
I like that. Like 4 from each district and 2 at large, that represent and maybe have a conversation between us that, who's representing the police, who's representing the fire, et cetera, or other organizations.
So if I'm hearing council, there's a consensus to move forward with the formation of a committee. We'll go ahead and kick off that application process. And then ultimately, those folks should be appointed by council at the meeting in January. And so we can plan to get, through our social media, through the outreach, to get input, to get applications from citizens. And then based on those qualifications, we'll bring forth some recommendations to council for appointment to that committee based on the criteria that we have tonight.
And I'd encourage everybody in the room to beat the bushes and think about who, if you would want to self-nominate because you're interested and involved, or of somebody that you think would be a good fit for this committee, help us advertise and get the word out. Be much appreciated.
Yes. And finally, I just want to say, echo my colleagues here and thank you, Chris and Jason and all the staff for, making your presentation. It was very thorough. It was very eye-opening and, just getting that out to the community so we can get everybody behind this measure because Hanford needs it. And I just want to say thank you. Great job.
Staff appreciates that. Thank you.